So they call this project capital intensive, both to develop and to construct, requiring an investment of over $400 million. So where do the funds come from to be able to fund such a pricey project? Well, they come from us. Tax incentives derived from the Inflation Reduction Act give these developers several million incentives to build these solar projects. Here's just a variety of Kansas tax incentives and credits. So here from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, it outlines the bonus incentives that these land brokers can receive when they develop these projects in low cost of living areas like rural Kansas. In case you were wondering why they didn't build these on rooftops in the cities that actually have the large energy demands. Now, this is a great chart to see the various subsidies offered when various criteria are met within the IRA. Remember this part about prevailing wage and apprenticeship, because we will get back to that soon. And in case you still thought Orion was doing all this because they wanted to stick around like some sort of benevolent benefactor, helping Franklin County with money and roads and schools and the environment, here's just one example of what Orion brokered in Hill County, Texas. This project isn't even fully permitted yet and it's already changed hands. And it was sold to an end user, Microsoft, for $588 million. I promise you, Orion is not as charitable as they wish to appear. Now in this section, Orion talks jobs. Hundreds of jobs are expected to be created during the construction phase of the Prairie Sunlight Project. Skilled positions, such as engineers, electricians, construction workers, and project managers will be needed. Yeah, let's talk about that. Here we read more from Utility Dive, a pro-solar publication. They say to maximize tax credits under the IRA, energy storage projects must meet two labor requirements. The first ensures that developers and operators pay prevailing wages, as determined by the Secretary of Labor, during the construction and first 5 years of system operations. So this tells me they'll be employing people for about 5 years or so to complete this added subsidy. And the second requirement is that the projects must meet a registered apprenticeship requirement. If projects meet the wage and apprenticeship requirements, they can then potentially boost their tax credit eligibility as high as 70% through three potential further incentives, one being the low to medium income projects. The IRA significantly improves the economics for large-scale battery storage projects in the United States, with a 30% investment tax credit and up to 70% with all of those additional incentives. So there's a ton of extra taxpayer money at stake, and this only applies to the battery storage that Alicia mentioned earlier in the article. So let's see what the U.S. Department of Labor says about the prevailing wage as it pertains to the IRA. It says here that laborers and mechanics who are independent contractors for employment tax purposes may be considered employees for the IRA wage bonus. So a company often chooses a 1099 independent contractor for short-term or temporary work because they have less risk or commitment over hiring somebody outright. But if the prevailing wage requirement should make sense, they should offer one figure for, say, the W-2 employee who has employer-paid health insurance, disability insurance, dental and vision, life insurance, paid time off, overtime wages, retirement contributions, and they aren't responsible for the full amount of Social Security and Medicare. And another figure for the 1099 contractor who pays for everything themselves. They have no PTO, no holiday pay, and they pay for the full share of Social Security and Medicare, so their payroll taxes are twice the amount. Sure, 1099ers have a lot of deductions, but often they even have to supply their own tools and vehicles and cover the wear and tear on those, while not ever benefiting from basic labor protections, leaving the door wide open for these companies to exploit workers while still receiving government money. Now do you see why they've got 1099 contractors on that list? Okay, circling back to the article for a second, they also say once operational, solar farms require a smaller yet steady workforce that will be based here in Franklin County. So this article by the AP gives a snapshot of what that scaled back workforce would actually look like. This article discusses 7 big solar projects proposed for rural Louisiana and mentioning the 160 to 300 construction jobs. Now, those are most likely going to be those previously mentioned mention 1099 contractors, but I digress. 4 of these projects will each employ 1 permanent employee. 1. 2 of them are creating 5 permanent jobs each for their $200 million power plants. And the developer of the $145 million plant promises 3 jobs created. So with Prairie Sunlight planning a $400 million plant, does that mean we'd get 10 whole jobs created in exchange for tying up over 3,000 acres of useful land for between 30 to 50 years? Would you look at that? Orion wants to be a member of the community. Orion has taken purposeful steps to be an immediate good neighbor and long-term member of the Franklin County community. Purposeful steps in being an immediate good neighbor? How about starting out by introducing yourselves? I mean, you've been poking around here since 2018. I understand being busy or even a little shy, but you wouldn't even allow our neighbors who did know you to introduce you. When looking at the recorded leases, and in fact, this one here is from the McFarland lease, there's a section 13.2 I would love to read to you. Look at that. Confidentiality. Owner shall maintain in the strictest confidence for the sole benefit of the lessee, and that would be Orion, all information pertaining to the financial terms of or payments under this agreement, the lessee's site or product design, methods of operation, methods of construction, power production or availability of the solar facilities, whether disclosed by the lessee or discovered by the owner, unless such information either is in the public domain by reason of prior publication through no act or omission of owner or its employees or agents, or was already known to owner at the time of disclosure and which owner is free to use or disclose without breach of any obligation to any person or entity, or is required to be disclosed by a court or governmental agency. Now, does that sound very neighborly? Okay, let's get real here. Yes, they've got websites. I mean, following our first video, most of the contents of the Prairie Sunlight page got taken down. I'm sorry about that. And they mentioned the local employees who will be available, all 10 of them if my math is correct. So let's talk about the things that Orion has done in an attempt to appear to be one of us here in Franklin County. Well, they donated to Bo's Hog Wild. Now, this is a great cause in the area, benefiting a multitude of children's charities and organizations through the years. Here it shows that they were whole hog sponsors, which means they gave $1,000. I haven't been in years, but it is always a great time. Like I said, it's a great cause, and I am so glad that if Orion is going to be giving money away, that they chose Bo's Hog Wild as one of their beneficiaries. I do have a question, though. How did this company out of California even know about Bo's Hog Wild? Well, a lesser contributor was the Franklin County Development Council, or FCDC for short. The head honcho there is Mr. Paul Bean. Mr. Bean was very vocal in the decision to create an industrial park in the same southern portion of rural Ottawa as Orion is proposing the solar power plant. Mr. Bean has been very pushy in attempting to get the county on board with the Orion plans. And that's easy to say for somebody who lives in a subdivision.
My position, FCDC's position, is this is something we most definitely should engage, is electric solar power.
He spoke for all of the FCDC, but many members were very upset because most members of the FCDC did not, in fact, see this project as a benefit to Franklin County's growth and prosperity. So he had to issue his retraction. The videos of him in FCDC apparel championing Orion were removed from Orion's site. And with this mea culpa here, all should be forgiven and forgotten, right? I mean, he did cut ties with Orion, right? Let's fast forward to October 11th. Yes, this current month. The FCDC hosted their annual Franklin County Career Day for high school juniors and seniors, Lots of local employers had booths, and there were many paying sponsors that the FCDC was able to share expenses with to make this event happen. The kids participating were given swag from these sponsors, including this t shirt. Do look here. Only one company name is larger than all the rest, front and center for all to see: Orion. Looks like they must have joined the FCDC if they were given this sponsorship opportunity. FCDC's website has its members in alphabetical order. There's no Orion, and that's strange because I thought Mr. Bean had conceded that Orion was not really well received by FCDC's membership. So who asked them to be such a stately sponsor of this youth career fair? And did members of Orion make some sort of pitch to the high schoolers?